Thank you for joining with us today, and I hope you enjoy food, drink, and the atmosphere here in the Pentabar. So a little bit about myself. I'm Thuật, and I'm currently working in Pentabar as a mobile technical leader, and sometimes Scrum Master. So I start my programming career in 2011, and I started with Android and Java. So there is no special reason for that. Just because that moment I found that I'm interested in mobile development, and I don't have enough money to buy a MacBook Pro, so I stay with Java, and it's for almost 10 years until now. So most of the time I worked in outsourcing company. Sometimes I work with many startups. Sometimes I work in enterprise projects, and I very quickly realized that most of the time when our client want to build a product on Android, the platform that I currently working on, so they also want to build on iOS or the other platform. So during the history of mobile developments, so there is always has been more than one platform in the market. So if we come back a long time ago, it would be a Symbian and Palm OS, and then iOS just emerged, and then Android, and some period of time we also need to build an application for Windows Phone also. And to work with a different platform from a single requirement, sometimes we feel it's our effort, and it also leads to a lot of issues in development between synchronization between mobile team, iOS team, or web team also. So the community were in search of a more efficient way to deliver mobile product in specific and or for both mobile and web developments. And so as a result, we see many cross-platform framework already designed to solve that problem. And my first cross-platform framework was the PhoneGap. So in 2012 and 2013, we have an order to build a kind of quiz application. So we thinking about the solution, and we decided that PhoneGap would be a good solution at the moment, because the quiz application, we need to display very rich UI interface to express the question, a lot of formula that we can very easy building dynamic from the server side and put it in client side through PhoneGap. So it was a nice experience, but at the end we have got a lot of issue with performance on the application. So we release the final version and the refactor of final and final of final, and a lot of time to optimize to bring our application to close to native level of user experience. So after a while, we see a Titanium framework. So Titanium, so if PhoneGap is mainly laid on the HTML5 and jQuery mobile, so now Titanium bring a better way to communicate with native component. So the idea is that we have a bridge to talk to native to bring out the native component, with the hope that our application we have a native performance at the end. And there was quite a lot of application, and the company chose to give a try with Titanium. So the next one is Qt framework. So it is not really popular for mobile, but Qt is a C++ framework that can view on multiple platforms from Android, iOS, Linux, Windows, macOS, and so on. And the way that Qt view a multiple platform is quite special. So they decided to not. So firstly, they decided that they not talk to native because they write in the C++. So they're confident that they can by themselves draw the UI with a high performance and will work well on different platforms. But Qt is commercial product, so you have to buy it. And as I take, even now it's still in active development, and there are a significant number of clients, but it's more strong on desktop and Mac application. Linux also, but not as strong as in mobile developments. Okay. So, and then few years ago, we heard a lot about Xamarin framework. So Xamarin actually was developed a long time ago, but we talked about it a lot in 2016 when it was acquired by Microsoft company, and Microsoft put a lot of effort on this framework to bring it to the community. And after that, we have React Native. That will be one of the famous cross-platform framework until the moment also. So why Xamarin is now belong to the Microsoft, so React Native is supported by Facebook. And a lot of companies already choose to give a try with React Native. There are a bunch of benefits that we can talk about later. So, however, so for many years, with many tests from the market, a lot of try from the company and the big company also. So recently, it seems that we only left two big names in the market. So in 2017, in 2018, it's mainly about the battle between Xamarin and React Native. And last year, we have a new name, very exciting name from Google, is FLUTTER. So I follow FLUTTER quite long time ago when I heard about it, but I just check it out, the information. I didn't give any try about that until recently. So I found that there are a lot of things behind the FLUTTER. So from the graphic UI library until the Dart programming language, about the long-term plan for FLUTTER to run on the new operating system from Google. If you may already know about Fuchsia operating. So I'm curious about that and play for a while. And today, it's my pleasure to share with you my little experience about this framework and to see how it compares to the other big name that is React Native. So I will not talk much about Xamarin because as you see here, so I just take up Flutter, React Native, Xamarin, and Titanium and Cordova to see how many or how most frequent it is asked in Stack Overflow network. And so Cordova is the most common one in long time ago in 2012, 13, 14, that when the people very interested in the HTML5 and jQuery mobile to build a multi-platform application. And then it's going down and down until the moment. So on the other hand, we have a summary here. And the very interesting moment in 2016 when Microsoft acquired Xamarin and they popped up in the market. So as you see in 2017, so people talk a lot about the Z2 framework. Xamarin and React Native. And I know that a lot of companies already give a try, and they try to compare, they try to consider one of the two big names. But in 2018 and 19, so we see that Xamarin is losing from the market. And now in 2019, it is only the battle between React Native and FLUTTER. So we all see the same, quite the same statistic from web search item. So with Flutter is increasing very significantly recently. So why Xamarin is going down and down, and React Native keep steady. And here is a survey from Stack Overflow this year to ask the developers that do they love the current language that they already give a try. And we see that most of people already play with Flutter and they really love it with 75%. So why React Native is following by 62% here. So at the end, so what is Flutter? So I take this definition, the introduction from official site. So it says that Flutter is Google's UI toolkit for building a beautiful native compiled application for mobile, web, and desktop from a single code base. So it's quite similar to all the other cross-platform framework when they come to the market. They always introduce a lot of interesting things, a lot of promise about their framework. So it is no surprise that we will see what is inside the Flutter. So let's take a look at the technical overview of Flutter framework. Come in, please. So Flutter was based on the two main technology. And the first one is SkiA framework. So anyone here already know about SkiA framework? No? So actually, SkiA is very familiar. We use it every day because Google use SkiA framework to build Google Chrome browser. So you use it every day. And the same Firefox also use SkiA framework. So it's very familiar. And it's major library with confirmed performance from the market for many years. The second main technology is Dart programming language. So Dart is new modern language in the market. And although SkiA were designed by the other company, it's SkiA ENC, but Google already bought it. So and now Google owns the both technology. Dart is also a programming language from Google. We will go into detail of the two technology. So why we need? So why I would like to introduce about the two technology, because normally when you go to the market and you search for Flutter, you heard a lot of beautiful word about Flutter, but by looking at the two main technology, we understand. So it's just a result of the two technology. So as I said, it is 2D graphic library and written in C++. Sorry. So as I said, Google acquired it in 2005. And SkiA is focused on the accuracy, the high quality, and the performance of rendering 2D graphics. And it is cross-platform framework. So because SkiA is cross-platform framework for UI rendering, so that is why Flutter is also can be able to deliver product on the platform also. So now we have iOS and Android and web, but later on we will have Windows, Mac, and Ubuntu with the same idea of technology and approaches. And yes, it is successful technology, successful framework, and it is being used by a billion users across. So although Flutter is new, but the core technology is major. So we talk about Dart language. So firstly, Dart is a client-optimized language. Again, it is made by Google. And the thing that it is client-optimized is very important because it is the focus of the language. It was made to optimize for client. That means they think about a lot of things related to the mobile application, about the web browser, about the front end on desktop, and Mac and Ubuntu also, right in the designing phase. So yes, it is static type and object oriented. And Z2 is related to the second one. So that is one of very few language in the mainstream now that support both ahead of time compilation and just in time compilation. This is really important because with support of ahead of time, so it can directly build to the machine code on Android and iOS and other system. And also with support of just-in-time compilation, it also to help developer to increase the fast development cycle. So during the development phase, so we will use just-in-time and Dart visual machine to develop. That help we update the source code to update the changes immediately. So you just modify the live code and hit to the save button and everything changes in the UI. So no need to review the whole project, no need to review by Xcode and Android Studio. That normally take a few or 10 minutes for a big project. But now it's just like you develop an HTML file. So you change the HTML file and you save and you see it, the change in the browser. Now it's the same. But once you finish and you release the application, you deploy it, so it changes to the ahead of time combination and to have a fast startup application to predictability of the application and so on. A lot of benefit of ahead of time. So any questions so far? No? So once again, of course, every programming language, the modern programming language, that includes a lot of feature and technology behind. But what I'm going to introduce you here is more about the thing that related to Flutter or result in something in Flutter that obviously, and I will introduce and explain to you. So another thing to know about that is that the concept of concurrency in that is a bit different. And it is come from the focal point of client optimization. So in a lot of other language, we will see that multi-threading, normally they share the memory, they share object. And then at the end, to manage the multi-thread in other language, many times it results in a lot of issues with deadlock. And for client side, so sometimes just one deadlock can just bring the lag into the animation or transaction or the user experience. So that choose a bit different approaches So firstly, they introduce an isolated concept. So isolated is a soft treat in the other language, but it do not share any memory. So it's by its name is isolated. It can run in parallel, run in concurrency, but don't say anything. And two isolated, we communicate by the message. There's no deadlock, there's nothing to care when you try to release the memory or deallocate the object. So secondly, for each isolated, they introduce a single thread-based and event loop mechanism. So that would be quite familiar for you with if you already work with React Native or any kind of event-driven language or even JavaScript. So just a name of event loop or event-driven or uninteractive. How does it call that? We have another name of that. Unidirectional, right? So these things will result in something in Flutter that they can optimize for the animation, the transaction, and the user interaction also. So just a kind of explanation for the event-driven process. So another thing that I would like to talk about that is that reactive programming with that is quite fun, quite pleasure for me. So before I worked mainly with Java for a long time, and if we come back to years ago, working with multi-threading in Java is quite tricky and quite difficult, I think. And then I moved to reactive programming, and I tried some modern language and even some new feature from Java that they also improve also. And day by day, they try to improve the asynchronous programming syntax and the way they run the block of code in parallel and how they communicated with the result. And as you see here, it's just very kind of lightweight, understandable, and the clean syntax. So the HTTP request to the network is run in another block, and it doesn't block UI at all. But we can use a wait to wait the result. And once the result comes in, it is a new event and we handle it. See you. Safe flight.
Thank you.
So one of the last thing I would like to talk about that language is about the memory management. So I think most of people we familiar with the concept of garbage collector. Many languages have it inside. For example, we have Java, and what about Swift? Do we have a garbage collector? Okay, so the traditional garbage collector work as you already know. So they go around, they find the unused object, and they deallocated it from memory to free memory, unused memory. That is a simple way to explain about garbage collector. But of course, there are a lot of things behind. And then by the time they observing the garbage collector and they found a couple of things. So if we just go around, we looking for the unused object and we free it, sometimes it will be wasted because they found the fact that if we scan for the first time and some object survive after the first time, and in the second time you scan the whole memory and you check again that object. So they give a statistic that 90% of the object that survival for the first time will continue survivors for the second time. So if you continue to do it again for the whole memory, it will be waste our time. So the most of the time, what we can be allocated is the short-lived object. So they try to divide our heap to several parts. So the new object, the short-lived object, and some objects that already survive, and some objects that already survive for several scans. And they give a priority, and of course we focus more on the short-lived object, and it is called generational garbage. They divide it to different generations. So the last thing is that so when I come to Flutter, I didn't know anything about that language, and I would like to learn, but I'm more excited about Flutter API. So I think that just better to just code and explore the Flutter API. And it's very surprising me that it is very easy to get into that language if you already know the other object-oriented programming language. So you can see, take a look at the sample code here in compared to Kotlin, Swift, and TypeScript. So almost immediately you can start coding and reading for sure that code. And it is really important, and it is the things that that team already thought about in the beginning. So when I come to that forum, and every day we got a lot of questions that, hey, so why that don't add the features? Why don't we have this feature? Because it is a pretty new language, so people come and normally they ask for a new feature. So they see that, hey, in Swift I can do that, so in that could you add these features? And that team give a lot of explanation about that. So the key important of that is familiarity, is over excitement. So when you come to that, you don't see a lot of surprising or wow factor. So you don't see that, wow, this feature is so cool. Instead, you will feel that, I can read it, okay, I can write this code very fast, and I can almost immediately work efficiency with it. So it is familiarity. And also because that is planned to building, to combine directly to the machine code in a multi-platform. So it is really need to consideration by add the feature, because sometimes you need to check the how it can compile to the other language, for example JavaScript. So if you want to run application in browser, you have to have a phase to convert from that to software JavaScript. Okay, so at the end, the combination of Skia and that language brings the framework architecture of Flutter. So you will see here on top of Flutter architecture, it is a Dart framework, including the material design and Cupertino design that you will use almost every day. So material design provide you a rich set of built-in widgets, so you can work with to build a material component that already in a standard design from Google. And Cupertino package give you a bunch of set of iOS look widgets. Later on, I will show you both of packages. We also have a rendering animation gesture and foundation package. So in the middle is it's more about Skia framework for rendering text UI, frame management, and another package is a platform channel that will help you to talk to native platform. So for example, you need to so I need to access to the key store Android to encrypt something. So I need to use platform channel to talk to native. And at the end, that almost that we never touching is the embedded platform specific. So when it runs to iOS, this is different for when it runs to Android. So here is the way that Flutter we creating that they call a cell, and that cell we host the native process. So when it runs on iOS, they creating a iOS cell that we hosting that iOS process about application. So it is belong to the connect to the embedded. And one of the important thing here is that it will responsible for communicated with input output hardware like touch event and keyboard. Okay, so we already go through the Flutter architecture. So now it's time to talk about the reasons that people interested in Flutter. So most of the point we related to the what we already go through here of Skia and that language. So just like many other cross-platform framework, the thing that we care the most, it is performance. So even we said that the native performance is the most important factor of a cross-platform framework. So people said that React Native brings the application to very close to the native level. Xamarin also, but they said that for Flutter it is native already, because so that code is combined directly to the merchant code, the AIM. So AIM merchant code and x64 also. And Skia, as I said, it is very major framework already confirmed their performance in the market. And by using Skia to draw the UI by its own, it changed the architecture of the layer quite different in compared to the other framework. So if we found that for most of the other framework, so they usually have a kind of bridge. This is responsible to talk to the native component. So we talk to the Android, we talk to iOS to bring out the native component from platform. So for example, I create an application by React Native. So I create a text view by JavaScript, and it talks to the native to bring the text view in Android and another native component from iOS. But for Flutter, it is very different. So it is now using Skia for rendering the UI. So all of the UI in application is no longer belong to the native anymore. So we do it by ourselves, by Skia. So when the first time I heard about it, I were a bit scared, because as Android developers, I know that there are a bunch of components, there are a bunch of UI components on Android, from text view, edit text, slide, switcher, so on and so on, a lot. And these components update very frequently. So Android team deliver a new look a new business logic inside of each component. So we update from Android 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Each version of Android has its own update in the component. So if Flutter choose this way, so how can we keep update with the latest component from each platform? So I was scared about that, and I think that many people concerned about that also. So the points is a good and is a concern point also. It's good because Flutter control of everything, so it will be stable. So you run in Android, you run in iOS, you run on Android 5 or you run in Android 6, it's the same. There's no surprising. But the concern is that can they keep up to date with the widgets? So we need to wait. Because currently it seems that it's still new. So what they created is the latest version of everything. So it's the same. But let's see. So next year, next 2 years, next 3 years, can they continue to do it? So so in terms of performance, I already built a Flutter application, preview application on the device here. So you can try to play with it. The application is rich UI animation, so you can see how actually it is. So I built on Android, iPad, and phone also. So here we have Flutter Gallery application. So that was building up a couple of things. So we have a study case that a couple of application and scenario. For example, we have any animation here. So so anyone want to play with it? So we will see together. It's better to anyone. So the password it have is 1111. So for Android, anyone need it? Anyone want to try it? And I will also. Here we also have a demonstration for material design and Cupertino design that we bring the Android look, material look, and iOS look. So for example, I go to material design. Let's find something. So we have a segment that specific for iOS design. Or we have picker here. That's the same, everything is the same, the animation and the widget looks. So we are really respect what Flutter team did in terms of bring the components. It is really rich set of the component that almost cover everything, every UI component in both Android and iOS so far. So that was a great effort. The question is that can they keep up to date for a long time? Let's see. We will see. So it's smooth. Can you still see my presentation, Victor?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So the other thing is important is that Flutter really productive. It is really fast development cycle. So by supporting hot reload, of course, I'm not talking about that building a multi-platform for simple source code base because that is everything every cloud platform framework does. So we talk about hot reload because so if you are native developers, so building Android and iOS application is sometimes very frustrated. So with hot reload, so everything is almost immediately. And again, as an introduction of that programming language, it is really productive. So that team will take a lot of, will inspire a lot of the current language from from .NET to Java, C++, and the other language to build a very powerful and productive language. And as I said, they provide a very rich set of widgets out of the box already. So when you install the SDK, you create the application, so it already included. And the documentation of Flutter is top. So there is no complaint about it. Everything is very clear and fully documented. They also have a YouTube channel to provide a lot of short video to introduce about a lot of concepts in Flutter, the ways they use widgets, how to programming with Flutter, how to deal with concurrency and asynchronous programming in Flutter, a lot of things. And another thing is that so although Flutter is pretty new, but the community is quite excited about that. We found a lot of library and package. It is not as comparable to React Native or the other major framework, but it's growing very fast recently. So I think it's time to play a bit with Flutter and Dutch language to see actually how it productive, as I said. So here I use Android Studio as an idea, but you can use Visual Code or any other text editor also. But of course, Android Studio is a product that Google buy from IntelliJ, and it is really powerful. So once you install Flutter, so it's very easy to create a new project. So let's create new one. So we have a Flutter application. We have a Flutter plugin to communicate with native to provide for the other application to use. We can create a pull dart package and we also can play a Flutter movie also. So everything is the same when you created Android and iOS application. It's easy. And at the end, so I'm not going to create it. I already had one here. And right in the beginning, Google already put some sample code here for you. So you create one and you can run it immediately. There's nothing to do to write a Hello World application. It's quite convenient. So let's see what application does. So I choose iPhone and just so of course to be on iOS, you still need Mac computer and Xcode also, because at the end it's in the native application. So
so you compare at the same time two virtual machines for Android and iOS.
We can do it by command line, but for I use Android Studio, I use the graphic user interface of this one. With the command line, you can view two. So let's wait for Xcode build project, and we will see how the declarative UI works. So if you come from Android, so you may already familiar with creating UI application by using the HTML file. So it's just like the HTML. So you create some text, some button, so you can see it visualize in the next window. So you drag and you drop some component, and then you come to the other file, and you code the basic logic for that. So that is imperative approaches. And now Flutter following the declarative approach. So that means that there is no HTML and storyboard file anymore. So everything comes directly here in the source code. So for example, here I have a column. In column, we have a list of children. It is text here and text here. And let's see. So here is the two items. So the first one, and the second one. So there is no HTML, there is no imperative file here. Okay. So it will take some time to get into this kind of approach. When I first time comes in, it's really quite difficult for me to imagine how it look like, so how I can change it, how it's some copying and marking. But it actually quite simple, because now we have a hot reload, so everything you change, it already visualize almost immediately. So I save, and you can see it update immediately. So it's already a kind of visualize already. So no review, no need to wait. What do I change the color here? And just save. And you see it immediately update. So it brings a very pleasant, very fun coding with native that I never ever experienced. Although in Android we already have a very close feature like this, but it not work as quick as this one. So recently we talk about a lot about security, and when Flutter comes out, we all care about that. So, however, as you see, although it is cross-platform, but many parts at the end is built in the native. For example, when you want to use a key store to save something, when you want to save to storage, it is owned by the native API. So just a few parts later on Flutter, for example, connection security. So Flutter, we call the API. Flutter manage the HTTP request, but not later on the native. And yes, it does support HTTPS connection with TSL pinning certificate, and also with the custom justice certificate also. So it is the same. It's the same for native. So in terms of encryption and decryption, so that package also provide a cryptographic package, so you can use it to encrypt or decrypt data. Also, it is easy to once again talk to native to use keychain and the key store. So keychain on iOS and key store for Android for encrypt or the safe data also. And the last one, the code obfuscation. So that also provide. So before you go to release, you can care about the obfuscation of that code. We prevent someone to try to read the bytecode of the application.
But sorry, I have a question because as you mentioned, the first part of this slide that dashboard will be used into machine language one. Yeah. So why do we need the obfuscation for that?
So obfuscation is a general package from that, because that is used for many purposes. So I just introduce that it is available in case you want to. Actually, that was born before Flutter, and when Flutter comes out, they try to examine a lot of programming language, and at the end they choose that language, but that not designed for Flutter. And you also that is used for server side, and you know we have Angular that also. Okay. So almost the last thing that about continuous deployment. So once again, if you are working with native and you are using any testing or continuous integration, so you can continue to use it with Flutter, because when you use, so at the end, it's a native output. It is not something specific for Flutter, but if you want, you can use Fastlane to facilitate the progress. So Fastlane will provide a very easy interface to help you for the first step. So it will help you to build Flutter project, to give you the native application like APK on Android and API for iOS, and then you can take that file to continue to work with the existing system. Okay. And so since the beginning, so we talk a lot about Flutter and it's owned by the good thing. So is there any things that we need to concern about Flutter? Is that own good, or we need to care about something? So as I mentioned before, the important point that Flutter team can keep update with the native community for a long time, because for me it's a huge work to do. So a lot of widgets from Android, a lot of widgets from iOS, and also a lot of specific platform behavior and kind of animation and interaction also. So because Flutter decided to do it by themselves, so let's see how they can keep up to date with that. So currently they do a quite good job. Yeah. So once again, although the community growing fast, but the list of support library is not as rich as other framework like React Native. So if you come to React Native, there are many thousand of library and choices. For example, if you want to write a camera app, there are a lot of good resources already confirmed in the market. But for Flutter, so Flutter already new, so the support library even newer and not much of choice. And also, when I go around, I found that many framework is not support both Android and iOS yet. So they first really, so this version for support Android and not for iOS. For the other, it support iOS but not for Android. So sometimes it's not a complete solution. So once again, as you may already see, the log from Flutter is very difficult to read. It's sometimes very confused reader. So the first time I built the first application and I just forgot to turn on the Wi-Fi network, and it threw out a kind of log about the UI rendering, and I cannot understand because we cannot have network, so we don't have information, and they cannot information to render that widgets, and they threw out the information that the rendering is stuck at the specific frame. And I also go around the community and they say the same. It's very difficult to understand the look from Flutter because sometimes it is the low level look. It's very difficult. It's not meaningful as Android look or maybe iOS. And also it will take some time for you to get into the declarative UI. So there's no XML file anymore. So, everything in the source code. And related to performance, that there is important point that I just said to you that in Flutter we usually have 1,000 widgets, and the application we review many times. So we should be careful of deciding that which part we will review when we have an event. So otherwise we go for a very critical issue with performance. Just we have to do it. For example, you have notification about the left part of the screen, that is the list. And of course, at the moment, we only want to review that list. So we design that list will be dynamic based on that variable, but not the other part. So it's and also, when I go around and I find the best architecture design for Flutter app, I found that there are a lot of options. So we have a block architecture design, that's a business logic component design. We also have Redux. Redux is inspired by reactive framework. We also have scope model. This is another architecture design. And it seems that there's no clearly universal accepted architecture. Yes, it's still in the database that one people argue that, the other argue that, and many applications are writing in block. Many others is choosing we got so for me, I like something like Android and iOS now. It is clearly almost all the application follows the kind of clean architecture design. I think it is better. So various viewpoint. So is the last point.